They have by far the highest ceiling out of any team in the league. Elite talent, NBA shot making, versatility, and the best coach in the league in John Shire. They can beat you in multiple ways. Half court, full court, running gun, walk it up. And they out-execute you, maybe except for that game versus Texas Tech.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
When did we become, so bitter that we can't accept another man's apology? We make mistakes all the time. And as a grown man, you have to say, I'm sorry every once in a while. And it's okay to say that. And the apology, I think, should be accepted. And in this case, I'm accepting it.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
The Chicago Blackhawks of the National Hockey League are now official partners with Kalshi. It takes effect this week. Each side can use the other's intellectual property for co-marketing purposes, and Kalshi will be promoted during home games at the United Center and on Blackhawks broadcasts. First of its kind, certainly probably not the last as well.
Newswire, only on SportsGrid.
Arvel Reese at 8%. I got to tell you right now, I have no idea who that is or if they're playing a joke on me, Joe.
Yeah, that's going to be interesting
Who is that?
here, but I have no idea.
Do you even know?
But no idea. But don't you have to pick the Heisman winner, Don? Isn't that like the rule of thumb if you're going to take a quarterback? Is he not the best quarterback?
The Early Line, only on Sport.
Welcome in, folks. Game Time Decisions is live on SportsGrid, where we are ready to make it happen with you on a Monday night. Kevin Walsh here live from the Decisions desk. If you are just tuning in, as of last Friday, this is our new start time, as we are going to be here for 2 full hours every single night. Is my collar a little tall? What is happening here to me? What is happening here to me? Rough start. Is the guy ready for 2 hours? Give me 30 minutes. I'll come right back to you, people. We have plenty to get to on this Monday night. Of course, we will talk about the fallout from Week 18 in the National Football League, where the preseason Super Bowl favorite Baltimore Ravens were a 44-yard field goal away from crashing the party and getting into the NFL playoffs. Instead, a miss keeps Aaron Rodgers' NFL career alive, potentially, as the Steelers will host the Houston Texans in round number 1. They do so as a decided underdog. We have a number of round 1 home dogs already lining up here throughout this wild card round, and we will talk today primarily about the starting point, I think, for a lot of these football teams. Tuesday, Wednesday, we'll have time to look at these lines, the movement. Some people will be filling out their brackets, but of course the game-to-game nature, the side nature, right? We have all the time to figure that out. But getting a real understanding of who is peaking at the right time, what are some of the biggest numbers that have made it in with our market movement on this Monday. We will look at the starting Super Bowl price for all 14 teams that have made the playoffs and where it sits right here, right now on January 5th. With the regular season coming to a close, we always end up with big news around head coaching decisions, and there were a number made over the last 24 hours. Raheem Morris fired in Atlanta, which I believe did cash Raheem Morris in the next coach out market, which we had discussed a few times on some of the predictive market outlets, because the Falcons wasted no time. Clearly, Raheem Morris was internally fired for a month by the Falcons. They won 4 consecutive games, and it did nothing to keep the job for Morris. I'd be willing to argue it hurt his chances of staying. Not that it messed up draft position. Their first-round pick belongs to the LA Rams. It's that it probably proved what some of the internal thoughts for this football team were, that they should have been better than what their record was. That there was more talent with Bijan and Drake London and Kyle Pitts and James Pierce and Jalen Walker. And I'm sure their general manager, Terry Fonten, who was fired, thinks, wait a minute, why am I going? Quarterback room. Kirk Cousins, Michael Penix. It's not a 3 strikes and you're out situation. That's two setups, and you feel bad about both situations. The Cousins stuff you felt bad about, I think, immediately, which is why they drafted Michael Penix. And then Penix had concerns about health coming out of the draft, and those have reared its head in just his second NFL season. Stefanski fired out of Cleveland. Kevin Stefanski is a multiple-time coach of the year. The Cleveland Browns, I don't really know what they were expecting. I still wonder if some of the Stefanski firing is just maybe alignment with an organization. I think Stefanski is going to be hired this draft cycle. I wonder if he was more than happy to get out of Cleveland, because this team winning 5 games with the roster that they sent out there, I don't think he underachieved. The offensive line is bad. The skill position room, I understand Harold Fannin broke out as the year went on. Judkins had himself a good year. It's all rookies, though. Like, they didn't have anything they were bringing back from the year prior that you felt good about. In fact, how the Cleveland Browns had bright spots, Myles Garrett and rookies, that was it. So to move off of Stefanski, who this organization and he never found alignment quarterback-wise, I do not like that move for the Cleveland Browns. I think he is rightfully going to be sought after by other organizations. I do not think he is your classic retread, why are we giving him another chance? I think Stefanski is worth that opportunity. And I think it's tough to get a gauge on how attractive the Browns' job is. There are good pieces in-house, but the quarterback situation remains incredibly confusing in Cleveland. The quarterback situation in Las Vegas could be clear. They move off of Pete Carroll, as the Raiders were the worst team in football, and they thought they were going to compete for a postseason spot. And every team probably thinks that, but the Raiders had folks out there who believed in them under the guidelines of the combination that Carroll and Geno Smith would be an upgrade of what they have had over the last half-decade. And instead, it was an awful season of Raider football. They had to send Max Crosby home to stop him from going out there and potentially winning games and costing this team draft position. The only question I think right now for Las Vegas is, are they so far away they don't draft quarterback at 1, maybe trade the pick, maybe trade Max Crosby? Because this team needs a look in the mirror. There are other organizations, and this is something that we'll get into, that if they brought in Pete Carroll and this was the result, we'd have a hard look at the organization. Pete Carroll's a Hall of Fame head coach. Now, he's not blameless in this, but if this is the results that you get with Pete Carroll, there's a lot of it that's going to be on you. In the West, but in the NFC side, Jonathan Gannon out in Arizona. Another one that I don't understand necessarily what Jonathan Gannon was supposed to do. I understand they lost 9 in a row. I think that actually worked out for them. Get this team in the position to potentially draft a game changer. They thought they had that position when offense with Marvin Harrison Jr. He is the 3rd best pass catching option at best on this Cardinals roster. The defense, Josh Sweat, who they brought in from Philly, Walter Nolan, Will Johnson, some rookies. There's not much else there to feel incredible about. Nobody knows what the quarterback position is. I think right now this looks like the worst job opening we have. Mixing in the Titans, mixing in the Giants, that looks to me to be the Arizona Cardinals as the worst job opening available right now. Now, that's where the NFL is, and we will expand on these things, but I know that you are here. Hey, Game Time Decisions, let's get in the mix. We're going to get in the mix, I promise you that. Okay? NBA slate tonight, headlined by Pistons-Knicks. It's in Detroit. Knicks are favorites. That's not, I don't believe, Detroit disrespect. I think it has to do with the health report. Yes, Josh Hart's going to be out for the Knicks, but no Jalen Duren, no Jalen Duren, no Tobias Harris. Did this Pistons injury report grow out of nowhere? All right, these guys are probable. Duncan Robinson, Cade Cunningham. That doesn't make anybody feel better about it. But still, no Duren, no Tobias Harris. That's, one of the three best players on this Pistons team in Duren. Two, top guys. That's why this number looks the way it does. My favorite bet will come from this game tonight. Okay? Not a side, not a total. We'll get you it, though. There's a few other good NBA spots tonight. Thunder off another loss. This team's 6-5 in their last 11. Just losing tons of games. Sixers are hosting a hospital squad in Denver. That's a 14.5-point line. Boston's back home. They're playing Chicago. If you're looking for college action, you've got hoops. You've got gridiron. If you'd like, the FCS championship game is tonight. It's Montana State. It's Illinois State. Illinois State is on a bit of a run. Montana State still a 10.5-point favorite in this game. And then on the college basketball side, it's the Big Ten stepping up once again for your ranked action. That's 10 Nebraska at Ohio State as a dog. A true college basketball spot, as we all know. And then it is a top 15 Michigan State team taking on USC, who last week smashed, absolutely throttled by Michigan proper. This number here giving USC it shows you the gap, to me, not between Michigan State and USC, that the books believe, odds makers believe, exists right now between Michigan and Michigan State, which is more than double digits. So we're going to dive into these basketball games and everything else. We lock in Knicks Pistons best bets on a Monday night after the break here on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, you look at it, he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there?
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
It's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
LeBron James gets that news today. What is today?
Today's his birthday.
Oh, I'm sorry? The greatest birthday gift that LeBron James has ever gotten is the reality, the smack in the face that he's no longer an all-star.
The Craig Carton Show, only on SportsGrid.
All right, let's get after it here on Game Time Decisions. In the NBA tonight, it's the Knicks and the Pistons in Detroit. I think this is the best game on the board tonight. These are the top two teams right now, I think, perception-wise, when we talk about the Eastern Conference. They are not the top two teams through the odds. The Knicks are your top team. Both Cleveland and Boston, shorter numbers than the Detroit Pistons, despite the Pistons having the best record by 3 full games over anyone else. Why is that the case? Well, the Pistons are once again beating expectations. So I think that's going to push people off. I think, though, Boston being in front of Detroit, you can justify a little bit. The Celtics have completely turned their season around, and they are not going to tank. And whether it's wise or not, it would now be surprising if Jason Tatum doesn't play for the Boston Celtics this season. One of the reasons it's believed to be this wide open Eastern Conference is the Celtics were supposed to be out of the race because of Jason Tatum being out. But that isn't what's happening here, right? The Boston offense is flourishing. They have the best point differential in the East. And if Tatum comes back, I think it's just on the board the Celtics go to favorites, quite frankly, in the conference. Cavs are a different story. Cleveland is still being given a lot of grace off of last year's pedigree. I saw something, and it kind of puts a little bit of how bad the Thunder current run, puts that into perspective. So OKC is 30-6 right now. We were talking a lot about that group, this year's group, breaking the record. The Cleveland Cavaliers last season were 33-4, right? That's a team that was 36-6. So the Thunder are going to need to win their next 6 games, whether they're favored to or not, to match last year's Cavs, who we didn't speak about in terms of record breaking. They were incredible. They were the 1 seed, all of that. It shows how much I think the Thunder in recent weeks have fallen off. But that pedigree from last year is keeping Cleveland up right now. I think the Pistons can certainly make the case that they should have a shorter number than that Cavs group. I think that is, although Cleveland's been very injured, but I think you can make that case. For tonight's game, one interesting thing, I mentioned the Jalen Duren absence being something that so far the Pistons have been able to work through. They're 4-0 when Duren misses the game. However, spot-wise, it screams Knicks. The Knicks have lost 3 straight games. First true lull, I guess outside of the fact they couldn't win any road games to start the year, in some time for the Knicks. The Pistons just won in Cleveland, really good win without Duren. So it can be hard to meet that level again. The fact that the Pistons are home certainly works in their favor. I keep mentioning the Duren absence, because it's going to help me feel really confident about a best bet tonight, which is Karl Anthony Towns over 20.5 points. It's my favorite bet. Cat scored 23 against Philly, but on 6 of 16 shooting. And so far, what we've seen from Cat this month is when he's coming off of a game with poor efficiency, he lights it up in the next game. He, so far this season, following a game where he was under 40% from the field, has scored 29, 40, and 36. And I love that he went 0 for 5 from 3 against Philly, because that means tonight, if we can keep the volume, up the efficiency, we get 2 or 3 makes from Cat from beyond the arc, that's going to do the damage. And without Duren, I think they're more inclined to get Cat the basketball. Try and get Isaiah Stewart in foul trouble. Now you've got a team that's going to have to play Paul Reed 35 minutes, which isn't really something they're trying to do as the Detroit Pistons. So that's my favorite bet on this board here, okay? Karl Anthony Towns over the 20.5 points. To keep it within the Eastern Conference, though, the Celtics tonight against the Bulls are in a really fascinating spot where, and this line working towards Chicago, it doesn't surprise me. I am not going to tell you that the number is wrong. It is just the spot is very tempting. The Bulls have played 6 straight games at home. The Celtics have played 5 straight games on the road. And so you kind of have these like worlds colliding of focus. And I think there could be a little bit of a lapse for Boston. And I think there could be a tick up from Chicago. My worry, though, is where the Bulls are injured. No Giddey, no Kobe White. If this Celtics offense does get to 120, that's probably enough then to keep the Bulls at bay. So if I were to back Chicago, I'd be more inclined to play under in this game. I ultimately left it alone. Where I do plan on getting involved tonight is Sixers Nuggets and taking the 14.5 with Denver. Philly is my preseason pick to win the Eastern Conference. I feel better about it as their season continues. Joel Embiid is losing the minutes restriction. Tyrese Maxey is finding his level. Paul George is playing some good basketball. VJ Edgecombe looks like he's going to try and get back into the conversation when we talk about NBA's Rookie of the Year, as he scored 23 or more in 3 consecutive games. He's been playing awesome basketball, plays 40-plus minutes in all these games as well. Denver, since losing Jokic, went to Toronto, decent dog, win the game by 3. Go to Cleveland, double-digit dog, lose by 5. Go to Brooklyn, favorite, lose by 12. I think it is on the board that the Nuggets will perform their best against the number as an underdog without Jokic, which they profile to be a good bit, but not in every game, where they're kind of up for it, prove it, hang it around. And I know tonight it's ugly. No Jokic, no Jamal Murray, no Aaron Gordon, no Christian Brown, no Tim Hardaway Jr., no Cam Johnson, what's that? The top 7 guys on Denver? Jonas Valanciunas? Yeah. That's why it's a 15-point spread. And I think Denver and Peyton Watson can get out there and look to hang around in this game. One other note I'd like to make on the NBA slate. This is late night. I'm tempted by the Clippers. However, James Harden added to the injury report with a shoulder. The number on the Clippers could still be worth playing, but I think this goes to 4 or 5 if Harden is out. And then maybe Kawhi can kind of do it all night, and that becomes interesting. But I can't play this with the numbers the way they're set up. Let's talk some college. Best bets from our crew after the break on SportsGrid.
It's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. Doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But you're like...
Live right here on SportsGrid. Where else are we looking outside of the NBA tonight? Perhaps college hoops, which is where some of our guys are going to attack in the best bet market. You do have a 6:30 tip coming up between Ohio State and Nebraska. Classic college spot. Buckeyes, 2.5-point favorite against a 14-0 ranked top 10 Nebraska team. We see it all the time in college basketball. It is, I will say this, Ohio State is not as good as Nebraska. Now, but we see these spots all the time, and home court rules the day. Nebraska was not supposed to be as good as they are. I think what's interesting, and I wonder for bettors, especially those on Ohio State tonight, is how impressed, if at all, were they with the Nebraska win against Michigan State? I, as someone who was on, I know Michigan State in that game. I know some other people who were as well. And if you would have said, hey, Nebraska scored 58, I'd have felt incredible about Sparty getting a win. That's the kind of game I thought Michigan State would make it. But I don't know. It's so bizarre. Nebraska, I would have been far more impressed if Nebraska won playing their style. If that's fair. And so I was not all the way in on the Cornhuskers. I don't find this line tonight to be like some wild disrespect, is what I'll say. Michigan State's playing tonight against USC. I think it is reasonable to look for USC to stay within this number. As, you know, it's kind of where I'm leaving here with something special, right? The double up in Michigan, lose by 30 to, Michigan. You're now getting 10.5 here tonight. But that is, we broke that game down 11, 12 points less than you caught from Michigan. Now we hear that you're getting from Michigan State. Michigan does look like not just the best team in college basketball right now. I mean, what's crazy about how good Michigan looks, and I know they're not playing tonight, is how the season started. They nearly lost to Wake Forest at home and then nearly lost their second game to TCU. But when they got over to Vegas, they just massacred everybody, and it's kind of been more of really the same since then. AJ's best bet tonight comes from Michigan State, USC. He likes over 150.5. I think that makes plenty of sense. USC, we know, is a team who does most of their damage attempting to score the basketball, kind of more of an offensive group there. A big-time total tonight between Charleston and William and Mary. You know whose best bet that is. Imagine it was mine. That's Yarnelli's. He likes it over 164. This looks to be on the climb a little bit here. This is a big-time total between two teams in the CAA. Let's see. I mean, he knows the CAA well because his Hofstra boys, who took a big loss this year to Iona. And if you ask me any other questions about Iona, you're bullying me. They scored 38 points the other night against me. I can't even believe my eyes. That doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. Koski, NBA parlay, plus 270. What is it? This guy's nuts. I got to be honest with you. I love him. He's going to say I'm nuts. He asked me about this before the show. Was I paying full attention? I thought so. I knew every single one of these legs. I didn't realize all three were going to come out to the best bet. Plus 275. McBride for 10. Buzelis for 15. Quickly for 20. He knows I love it, though. Who can we get for 25? Who can we get for 5? How high can we ride that ladder? I'm on Karl Anthony Towns over 20.5 points for a best bet. Knicks, Pistons. That game will begin as we are live on air in about 30 or so minutes. And I mentioned it off the top. If you are looking for some college football, tonight is the FCS championship between Montana State and Illinois State. Illinois State is the team that stunned North Dakota State and then led to a bunch of people pretending that happening is more reason to put more G5 teams into the college football playoff, which was always a little silly. Give Illinois State credit for getting to the dance here. This game looks like an over to me at 57.5, though I have not played it. But on surface, this thing looks like it should be an over in this game. What we are going to do next, I feel like we're pretty set up for the card, is get a little bit of insight from NFL insider Adam Kaplan. There's a million things we can ask him. They've told me many times on air, focus on the real news, not the Eagles losing to the Commanders and how ridiculous that was. They said focus on the firings and not the fact that Sirianni's name should potentially be on that list. We'll see if I follow orders next.
it's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Game Time Decisions live on SportsGrid. We are joined by NFL insider Adam Kaplan. Cap, always great to talk to you. Trying to get a sense on some of the decisions that were made yesterday.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was the most surprising, but I thought the quickness of which the Falcons moved on from their coach and GM combination made a bit of a statement. What have you made and what have you heard out of Atlanta today?
Yeah, so the surprise was that both the head coach, Raheem Morris, and GM Terry Fontenot were gone. Like, a lot of the reporting, I heard a little bit differently, but everything I'd heard lately, last week or so, would suggest that it's looking better for Morris. But remember, I did bring up 2 months ago for the first time, we got to start talking about Raheem Morris's job security. And, I don't like doing that early, but everything I'd heard from the building is they were very disappointed. This was supposed to be a breakout season. Fontenot is actually drafted fairly well, but he butchered the quarterback position. That's why he's no longer the general manager. And you like that he closed with 4 straight wins. But here's the thing with Matt Ryan's got a real shot. This is incredible, Kevin. We need to talk about this right now. Matt Ryan, who never worked for NFL front office, has a real shot to be the director of football operations, where the head coach and general manager report to him. And get this, Matt Ryan would have personnel control. That means he makes all decisions with input, of course, but he would make all decisions. He would have the so-called final say. Guy's never worked in an NFL front office. He's never worked for an NFL team other than being a player. So once again, Arthur Blank is doing things differently. Oh, also, Arthur Blank, the owner, also is hiring a search firm for both the general manager position and the head coach position. It's just bizarre what they're doing there in Atlanta. But it all starts with the quarterback position and what Terry Fontenot did. It's a shame because Fontenot, Kevin, I know we talked about this, the shock, the draft night 2 years ago. You and I were like, what? And it's one thing to like Michael Penix, but you knew coming in that you had Kirk Cousins 2 years where we're highly fully guaranteed, and then $10 million due, which is now guaranteed for next season. But what it basically meant is your quarterback, Kirk Cousins, unless he gets hurt, will not be giving up the starting job until year 3 at the earliest. It's just bad quarterback management and cash management.
Yeah, I think you kind of laid out. Raheem Morris was fired for an underperforming roster.
Yeah.
And I think Fonda was fired just because of the quarterback stuff. And I think that now I did not realize all the other stuff you laid out there with Matt Ryan, the search firm, and so it actually, and I wasn't really even going to get to this, Cap. Have you heard anything around the Phillip Rivers head coaching conversations that have now been tossed out there?
Yeah. So here's the thing, and I warned Craig Mitchell on Newswire 2 weeks ago. I said, you're going to start to hear that this is not a very good group of offensive head coaching candidates. It's mostly defense. That's why you saw the NFL Network report that teams are looking into Phillip Rivers. Well, Phillip Rivers is a high school coach, like Josh McCown, who was a high school coach, then a quarterback's coach, and also interviewed for the Texans head coaching job some years ago. He was actually the runner-up. You're looking at another quarterback who a lot of people are fond of, who's great connector, great energy and passion for the job. And certainly it would not be a surprise to me if one or two teams of the 6 so far, by the way, there may be more openings right now. We're at the league average per year over the last 10 years. It's just over 6. We're at 6 now. We might have 2 more. We'll see, which may not totally be a firing. I told you that 90% are firings. There's some that resign, like when Sean Payton did and took a year off. There are reasons for that. He did that. We'll see what happens with John Harbaugh this week. That's fun to watch. But the Phillip Rivers one I found is interesting. That was a really good nugget from NFL Network because when you're trying to figure it out, sometimes you do something unorthodox. Remember when Jeff Saturday came out of the blue? Jim Irsay hired him. And they were actually on a roll. Then they had the worst choke in NFL history in the regular season. So you can't rule anything like that out.
It's interesting because you had mentioned how the offensive candidates are not wide-ranging, and that perhaps was able to allow Zach Taylor to keep his job and allow Shane Steichen to keep his job. And I'm not sure I think either guy needed Mike McDaniel, another one, right? Kevin Stefanski, though, not able to keep the job in Cleveland. We know he's going to be a sought-after name. I'm wondering, Cap, are there a couple of these openings that you feel sound obvious for Stefanski possibly?
Yeah, I told you yesterday, Kevin, that look for Stefanski to emerge with the Giants, and he's going to get an interview there. You have to remember, he's from Philly, went to the University of Pennsylvania. His parents live in this area, so it would be a good opportunity for him to get back east and you develop a quarterback again. Something, it just didn't work out for him there with Deshaun Watson. The Watson thing was a debacle, obviously. He hadn't played good football since 2020. But when you look at Kevin's situation, he had a couple years left on his contract. In fact, remember, he got the extension last year, so he had time left on his contract. He wants to coach. I'd be stunned if he's not being a head coach. And Tennessee also. Look at them right now with Cam Ward. I've talked to multiple coaches around the league who are looking at that situation. That they'd like to join some of these head coaching candidates. There's a lot of love for Cam Ward around the league. I understand he didn't have a great rookie season, but he's very gifted. And then you look at Jackson Dart. Anyone would want that job. And by the way, the Giants' talent is way better than they have in Tennessee overall. That's why those are by far the most 2 desirable jobs right now. Quarterbacks.
Let me ask you, Cap, about there's so many different ways, and I'm sure we'll talk many times throughout the week. But you mentioned yesterday that what was Jonathan Gannon supposed to do? And I got to tell you, Cap, I couldn't agree more. And I promise that is not some Philly roots stuff. Gannon didn't really end his tenure in Philly amazing with the Super Bowl. They gave up a bazillion points. I do not look at Arizona as a team that has had all of this talent. They had a backup quarterback playing for 75% of the season, a franchise quarterback they're going to move off of. We talk about, and you just laid out the jobs that are exciting for candidates, right? Giants, maybe Titans, right? This Arizona job, I don't think we're going to have coaches climbing all over one another to try and become the Cardinals' next head coach.
Yeah, the reason why Gannon got fired, see, the way it was explained to me is this. Look, you could blame injuries. Certainly, they had, I believe, their number one in games lost for starters, and they also lost a lot of key backups. So it's tough. It's tough to be competitive, but he never showed any progress. 19 games under 500. That's damning, as someone pointed out to me earlier today. But it was just hard, man. It's hard to win. when you're bad at quarterback, turn to starter. Kyler Murray got hurt. He had the midfoot sprain. He wasn't playing well before that. A total makeshift offensive line. This offensive line was not put well together, but I know they love their draft last year's for terms of defense. Most of those guys, Will Johnson, Max Melton, Darius Robinson, Walter Nolan, and others got hurt. I mean, it's just hard. So he never really had a chance. And the Cardinals remind me of a team that time lost, kind of like the Texas Rangers. Like, who really cares about these teams? But they're an NFL team. They're the number one sport, and they haven't really had that run since Kurt Warner retired. They've had a couple obviously they had a couple playoff dalliances, but they've not even been the same, and they haven't got it right at quarterback. Kyler Murray's had his moments, but he's a 5'9" quarterback, been hurt a lot, going to be hard to trade. The Cardinals may have to eat a big portion of the guaranteed money to be able to move him. The Dolphins are going to go through that with Tua, was owed $54 million, fully guaranteed this year.
Yeah,
it's tough, man. It's really tough when you miss a quarterback.
Yeah, it clearly is, and I think these teams continue to find that out, and I think that makes Vegas very interesting. Is this team ready to commit to a quarterback in the offseason? I know we'll talk about that. Cap, I appreciate it. As always, we will check in with Adam Kaplan multiple times here throughout a very busy week in the NFL. Let's talk a little bit about is John Harbaugh's name going to get talked about a little bit after last night. Next, right here on Sports.
It's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there.
Like,
I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
To get to here on a Monday night on Game Time Decisions. We've got a live game right now between Nebraska and Ohio State that we will be tracking. We have more NBA that's going to be tipping in about 15 minutes. We will re-rack our best bets momentarily for all of you. But we were just talking about coaches on the outs with Adam Kaplan, and some decisions have been made. Some decisions will be made. And there is a decision that is going to be made by the Baltimore Ravens after last night within the next, you would imagine, 48 to 96 hours on whether or not they're going to keep John Harbaugh. Now, there's already been some reporting from ESPN's Adam Schefter that Harbaugh will basically be able to pick his job if he is fired. I believe that entirely. I think the Browns would be incredibly excited to hire him. I think Vegas would be excited to hire him. I think the Giants would be excited to hire him. Honestly, there might be an organization or two that might fire a guy to bring in Harbaugh if that becomes on the board. But it doesn't necessarily mean that it's a mistake. It can go different directions, right? The Browns firing Stefanski and him immediately being hired, I think maybe should allow Cleveland to rethink that decision. The Ravens, it's not the same. Because the Ravens have a superstar quarterback who does not seem to be aligned with their head coach, and that's been the case for a while. And I don't think that lack of alignment, we point to a moment last night specifically and say, boom, there it all fell apart. But over the course of a season, it can feel that way. Let's remember that Lamar Jackson getting injured against the Chiefs, right, was not immediately ruled out against the Texans. And then after he was, Harbaugh's like, don't worry about it. Clearly, you'll see him against the Bears. And we didn't see him against the Bears. And that was weird. And then Lamar comes back, and he doesn't look right. And maybe he was going to start to, put a foot forward, and he gets injured against the Patriots. And it leads to people wondering if Lamar was really that injured when he missed the game against Green Bay. And my take is not Lamar either was or was not as injured as reported. That being a conversation is a product of the lack of continuity and alignment from quarterback and coach. Because the coach constantly gets to the podium and swears the quarterback's going to be ready, and then the quarterback's not. And then he gets injured, and then he swears the quarterback's ready, and the quarterback's not. Happens all the time. The Lamar Jackson injury reports where nobody knows what's going on. It's his hamstring, it's his ankle, it's his knee, it's his toe, it's his head, he's sick. He's just not here. I don't know. And that doesn't happen elsewhere. Where you see such a clear lack of communication with one another. And there are some conversations on, Lamar Jackson's, for lack of a better phrase, maturity. And maybe some of them are unfounded. But what we do know is due to the current relationship that he and Harbaugh have, it leads to more of those questions. And I think we know those two together aren't a good fit. And it puts the Ravens in a position to decide between Harbaugh or Lamar Jackson. And I'm sorry, but that feels like an easy decision. Lamar Jackson is not yet 30 and a multiple-time MVP. And it is hard to find a quarterback that you feel great about. And you out there may not be Lamar's biggest fan. You wouldn't dare rank him outside of the top 10 quarterbacks in football. It'd be nonsense. It's an invalid list if you did. The Ravens have to move forward with Lamar, and I don't think they can do that with Harbaugh there. It's a tough decision, but it comes with the expectations. And these are things that are now going to face teams that are in the playoffs. Not every coach could lose in the postseason and their job's on the line. Liam Cohen's fine. DeMeco Ryans is fine. Jim Harbaugh is fine. Ben Johnson, fine. McDonald, fine. Dave Canales, I assume, fine. Kyle Shanahan, Sean McVay. LaFleur? I don't know. They're the 7 seed every year. That's not great. They're going to be pick, slight dog, maybe slight favorite in Chicago. The contract's not yet signed. It's one to watch, I would say. Sean McDermott? If they lose in round one, that's probably not going to be forgiven. Mike Vrabel's fine. Sean Payton, he's fine. The other coach, where there will likely be an eye on, that he brings upon himself, is the defending Super Bowl head coach in Nick Sirianni, who again, yesterday, tour de force of bad decision-making. Tanner McKee throwing the football 40 times against the Washington Commanders. Jalen Hurts this season's season high in attempts is 40, and it was in an overtime game. Did that coaching staff go out there yesterday and try and show it's not us, it's the quarterback? I think it's on the board. And I think what they did was then prove the opposite, is that it is them, is that they do hold back Hurts, and that it's at times LeBronian level effort that he wins at the level with this group. Nick Sirianni has allowed the vibes to be so bad that even if they win the Super Bowl, they probably need another new offensive coordinator. The question is, if Nick Sirianni loses in round one, will he be fired? There's a chance the answer to that question is yes. We'll be right back here on Sports Grid's Game Time Decisions.
It's going to open up Pandora's box. But I will say this. I do believe players that sign now, like Najee, should not be eligible now, but should have to sit out and come back in next year. It's just a slippery slope. And I agree with people like Tom Izzo. I don't like it at all.
College basketball today. Only on SportsGrid.
Sometimes those coaches do get the axe regardless of what the owner said just a few short weeks ago. And sometimes, Joe, you can't have it both ways. Like a Jets fan, you probably want them to tank. They're doing a really good job of that by not even being competitive at this point. But at the same time, you sort of want it to be, yeah, we're not competitive winning games, but it looks like we have a future. We might have found our quarterback. We got a good foundation. Nothing is going right.
The Early Line. Only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game Time Decisions. Only on SportsGrid.
Crosby has now left the team, by the way. He's pissed. Anyway, look at he's angry. He wants to play. He doesn't like what they're doing here. There's all sort of speculation.
This might be the final straw, George, for him there. Like, I don't know why he stays. Yeah, I know. The thing is, he's got a Raider freaking tattoo. Like, the guy loves the Raiders. Like, he really does love playing for the Raiders. But and now, like you said, he's not happy about this.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
Back at the right here on SportsGrid. And there's one more NFL thing I'd like to just put on the board because it caught my eye today. And, I didn't think it could go undiscussed. Friend of the show, Jake Aspman, posted a clip from the Todd McShay show of The Ringer. Great show. Subscribe, fan, very insightful. Where Dante Moore, Oregon quarterback, will be playing later this week, and his decision to come out or not was discussed through the lens of the Raiders and the Jets. here is what Todd McShay on the Todd McShay Show from The Ringer said about Dante Moore and the Jets.
If you're representing Dante Moore, for as with the Raiders, you know you have an organization steep in history with an owner whose father steep in the, like entrenched in the great history of the NFL, trying to do the right thing, misguided at times, brings in Tom Brady, who can be a source of helping, although this first go round was not pretty. But how much did Tom, I feel like next year with a new coaching staff, as we all presume, Pete Carroll will be out and there will be a new staff. Would you or would you not, as the representation or the representative, the rep for Dante Moore, kind of reach out to the Raiders and say, hey, my client's trying to make a decision. We can live with going to 30 of the 32 teams. Maybe it's 31. I can't allow him to go to the New York Jets.
That is ridiculous. Again, Todd McShay, legend of the business, does a great job. The Las Vegas Raiders have the second longest playoff victory drought in football. Only 2 years shorter than that of the Miami Dolphins. It spans over 2 decades. The Las Vegas Raiders brought in a Hall of Fame head coach in Pete Carroll and won 3 games. Pete Carroll, forget bad, Pete Carroll has never been anything other than good anywhere else he has been in his life. It was awful. We got to look inward at the organization. We talk about the people making decisions. And we can give grace to Brady and co. year 1 on the job. But Big Bad Muji Boogeyman with the New York Jets has this team looking up because they fleeced the Indianapolis Colts for Sauce Gardner. And that was pre-Daniel Jones and Sauce Gardner injury. They have the 16th pick this year, the Jets, from the Colts. They, be honest with yourself, then fleeced the Dallas Cowboys for Quinnen Williams. It was as perfectly executed a tank as we have seen in some time. Heck, they even tossed their fans a win, right? A little meat on the bone to feel good about, right? When they went and beat the Atlanta Falcons, like, maybe we're turning this thing around. If, from a star power perspective, if you're a quarterback and you want to be the guy, is Vegas a big market? Sure, it's not New York. If I'm Dante Moore's representation and I had to choose between the Jets and the Raiders, I'd pick the Jets. And I certainly would not be, even if you want to say that Woody Johnson, who I know it's been bad, hey, I don't want to go to the Jets, don't prop up the Las Vegas Raiders. Sell me something else. Sell me, are there any taxes in Arizona? Sell me go to the Cleveland Browns, where, hey, at least they got a defensive player of the year. And Quinshon Judkins and Harold Fannin, when these guys are healthy, sell me some. Don't sell me the second longest playoff victory drought in football. Every now and then, OK Dubs has to go back to his roots. I'm not a Jets fan, I'm not a Giants fan, and neither one of those teams even play in New York. But I'm a New Yorker through and through, despite where my mail gets sent. And I will not stand for the Jets to be dragged through the mud in this way. Not going to happen. So Dante Moore, if you do leave, you should be so lucky to fly the plane. Though, like I said months ago, the Jets should not draft a quarterback. Well, the Browns draft a quarterback. Nobody knows. But Matt Fontana will try and help us out with that next.
like Alabama, right? Is there a team that scores more than Alabama? No, right? But they're actually an under team over the last couple of years because their numbers are so high. You get these Americans in Queens College or Denver. Who the hell's betting on them, right? No, but so the lines stay low. They're just like, no one's hopping all over them. But every time you see an Alabama game, you're betting over, but you're losing money because the numbers are so big.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He's out again. Anthony Davis is injured once again and is going to miss time with the Dallas Mavericks for a minor groin strain. Likely will miss a few games. And I don't even know what a few games is to Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis seems to always be missing time.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I know exactly what Patriot Nation is screaming this morning. It's Drake May time. Give him the trophy. MVP. Stop it, please. Just sit down. Yes, Drake May has had a nice season. But let's be real. He has played a JV schedule of defenses. He is carving up the easiest slate of defenses in the NFL this season. Congratulations on your beatdown of the Jets.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions live on SportsGrid. A couple of games are going to get underway, including Knicks Pistons on the Karl Anthony Towns over 20.5 points tonight against Detroit. No Jalen Duren should free things up there for Cat. I know Chris is going to use Miles McBride in his best bet, which is a parlay, which will also involve Matas Buzelis and Emmanuel Quickly. And who knows when the Yarnell college basketball game tips off. William & Mary, Charleston over the 164. So that's where you're at for a best bet setup here tonight. Now we get to something where I actually think this is a bit of a rarity. When we talk Cleveland sports, I feel like we never see it coming. You got superstar closers getting tossed in jail. You get quarterback changes you weren't ready for. I got to say, Matt Fontana, who joins us right here on SportsGrid, always great to talk with Matt around Cleveland sports. You can find him with the just kind of covering everything that really has just been a crazy year for Cleveland sports. I think we knew when the NFL season ended we would talk Cleveland. I think we knew that there was going to be something noteworthy with the Browns, and they've given us a number of things. Let's start with the decision to fire Kevin Stefanski. Do you agree with this move from Cleveland?
I hate to give you guys a non-answer, not a great answer. Kevin Stefanski is a really good coach. He deserved to be fired. It's an oxymoron, right?
Okay.
Where I think he deserve it? Yeah, probably. The team was bad. They were not improving. They struggled mightily this season. But I also think there was a lot of things that didn't go in his favor, right? The roster construction was bad. Andrew Berry, who's going to lead this search in his press conference today, admitted that the offense is their priority to fix. Basically, they fixed the defense last year. Okay, you have an offensive-minded head coach and did nothing to help the offense. But it also got to a point where I think Stefanski wanted out. I really people throw around the mutual separation or mutual parting of the ways. I truly believe that Kevin Stefanski wanted out. He's ready to go take another job. He's already got 3 openings reportedly lined up for him. There was some leaks or kind of fingers pointed that he was telling guys during the week that he was already gone, leading up to the game. So I think he wanted out as much as the Browns were ready to make a change. So I think he's a good coach, but they needed to make a change.
Yeah, I think it's interesting because I agree with the idea that he's a good coach. And I think because of that, because of the way the quarterback position is, I don't love the decision to fire Kevin Stefanski. You say that they needed to make a change. What do you think the Browns then are looking for or are hoping to gain with this decision? And are there any candidates that jump off the page as the right guy for this Cleveland job to you, Matt?
First would be Jim Schwartz. There was a lot of players that spoke today that gave their kind of vote, if you will, for Jim Schwartz to get a look as head coach. He's obviously been a head coach before. He's been through it with the Detroit Lions, all that. And there's a lot of people on that defense that are big fans of nothing's changed when you become a head coach versus the defensive coordinator. Tommy Reese is the OC. There's a lot of people thought he have a college head coaching job by now. Sounds like he maybe want to stick with the pros. But as far as what they're looking for, just the vibe that I get was like Kevin was a really good X's and O's play caller, but like the motivator, or even sometimes like the intangibles of being a head coach, like the whatever Mike Tomlin does. However Mike Tomlin gets his guys to show up on Sundays and beat teams that they're not supposed to beat as big underdogs and keep making the playoffs with inferior quarterbacks or inferior offense, like I think that's what they're kind of, not necessarily Mike Tomlin, but more of like that. Like, I think Kevin Stefanski is a really good X's and O's coach. He's really good about the game of football, but it might be some of the other stuff that he was lacking in more like that CEO type of role. So I think they want to invest in that. Me personally, I want to see somebody who's done this before. The Browns, we were talking before even I came on, like Hugh Jackson was the last guy that they hired that had been a head coach before, and that went terribly. But even before that, like Mike Pettin was a first-time head coach. When they hired Pat Shurmur, he was a first-time head coach. In just the Haslam's regime, I don't want to go back to, a long time ago, but like since the Haslams have owned the team, I think they've hired 7 coaches and 5 of them are first-time head coaches. Like maybe it's time to find somebody who's done this before instead of trying to just go after that hotshot coordinator guy.
Yeah, I think that is actually really interesting. I hadn't kind of realized how often they were dipping into the coordinator pool. And I know that is common, but I do think, I don't know if you heard this, Matt, but Adam Schefter was talking about if Harbaugh's let go by Baltimore and the certainty to which he said he can kind of pick his landing spot. You could just tell he knows that there's going to be a lot of teams kind of calling his name. I wonder if he would be interested in the job. I wonder if he would like the idea to stay in the North. I do think the AFC North, more than any other division, it's like its own thing, right? It's like, I know the North. I'm comfortable here. Like, I think that would be a legitimate selling point for Harbaugh, Matt. Would that excite you as a Browns guy if Harbaugh was an option?
I'd walk to Baltimore if I needed to pick him up. I'll carry him back to Cleveland if I have to. 100%, Kevin. I think the thing about Harbaugh, like let's just say you pick the Browns. It would be the opposite of Baltimore where kind of like they took him for granted. Like he came into Cleveland, you are, I don't want to say a god because there's always Browns fans that are going to be naysayers, but like he would have the longest runway that you could ever imagine to get it right, for people to believe in it, because I also think 2026 is going to be another down year for the Browns. They're not going to get a quarterback in the draft. They're going to bring Deshaun Watson back. They probably are going to have to start Watson. Shedeur Sanders is not going to be an viable option. So I understand they're going to throw a bunch of draft picks and what cap space they have at the offense, but I think this is another 5, 6, maybe 7 win football team next year. So you're going to need a coach that's willing to sign up to go through that and know that you're going to come out the other side. And that's, again, another reason why I'd love a veteran guy. But a guy like John Harbaugh that would come in here and truthfully, like, be the guy, I'd be all for it. Now, here's the question. Is Andrew Berry going to hire a guy like that? Andrew Berry, people want him gone with Kevin Stefanski. People are floored that he got to keep his job as the general manager and then now lead a search for the next head coach. Does he really want to go hire somebody that would probably be higher than him in that pecking order or instantly vault him? That's another dynamic to this whole thing as people get ready to go for the Browns on this search. Like, I don't know too many GMs that hiring coaches that don't know their place in line, I guess, to kind of put it that way.
No, I get what you're saying, but I think it might be very Brownsian in that it feels like sometimes the left brain doesn't know what the right brain is doing. And I think, we saw that with all the quarterback decisions that were made. And so, Matt, that's the thing. One of the biggest things that loom, this team ended up with the 6th overall draft pick. I'm sure this answer will change a number of times. But as we sit here now on January 5th, Do you think Shedeur Sanders is the starting quarterback for the Browns heading into next season?
I do. Yeah, probably. I mean, maybe Watson. They could go Mac Jones type route, try to capture the Sam Darnold magic or something like that. Kevin, I don't really see them drafting a quarterback at all, because if you're not going to get one, if you're not going to, this is just my opinion, if you're not going to get Mora Mendoza, you're wasting your time. I want nothing to do with Ty Simpson. Trinidad Chambliss is a nice player and all that, but like, they've already tried the mid-round guys. If you can't get a top flight, top 10 quarterback, then go offensive line, go receiver, and build it up. So, yeah, I think there's a really good chance. Now, starting Shedeur Sanders versus having faith and belief that he can win football games, I think are two different things. And I don't know, maybe a whole off season of practice and try to scheme it up for him and help. But I could see him starting and then give him 5 games. And if it looks exactly like it did this season, then they turn things back over to Watson.
The thing I would say for the Browns is, because you're picking 6th and because this looks like a bad draft class for quarterbacks and next year looks like a good one, I actually think this has all been made really easy for them. Shedeur, I'm not going to pretend he was great in maybe any of the games. He went 3-4 as a starter. One of the losses was by 2, and everyone thought he should have been on the field for the play. Another one was by 3, and it was to Buffalo. It just, sometimes for the Browns, and Matt can speak to this better than I can, things are hard. This one feels easy. Take the layup. Yeah. Matt Fontana, incredible as always. Check out the Matt Fontana Show. Tom Vecchio joins us here on SportsGrid next.
Like Alabama, right? Is there a team that scores more than Alabama? No, right? But they're actually an under team over the last couple of years because their numbers are so high. You get these Americans in Queens College or Denver. Who the hell's betting on them, right? No, but so the lines stay low. They're just like, no one's hopping all over them. But every time you see an Alabama game, you're betting over, but you're losing money because the numbers are so big.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He's out again. Anthony Davis is injured once again and is going to miss time with the Dallas Mavericks for a minor groin strain. Likely will miss a few games. And I don't even know what a few games is to Anthony Davis, because Anthony Davis seems to always be missing time.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I know exactly what Patriot Nation is screaming this morning. It's Drake May time. Give him the trophy. MVP. Stop it, please. Just sit down. Yes, Drake May has had a nice season. But let's be real. He has played a JV schedule of defenses. He is carving up the easiest slate of defenses in the NFL this season. Congratulations on your beatdown of the Jets.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on a Monday, joined by our guy, Tom Vecchio. Tom, always good to talk to you here. We got plenty that we can go through here. Certainly going to talk plenty of football. But on this Monday night, are you on the board anywhere? Hockey, NBA calling your name, any action?
Only one bet tonight. That'd be Caps Ducks over 6.5. Both teams like to score, both top 11 in the league in scoring. Ducks are the worst defensive team in the league. They've given up the most goals. They, the great starts of the season, that's kind of, fizzled out. Great young talent, but they're horrible on defense. I also was going to, I forget who who the Nuggets are playing, but I was just going to bet against the Nuggets because they decided just to not play anyone tonight.
So they're playing the Sixers, but it's a 15-point line.
I know. I was going to play the 15 just because Denver's punting this game. I was like, but I didn't do it.
I got you. I'm on Denver.
Okay.
If it does anything for you. But I just, it's a big number. And I think this Denver team could be better or could be at their ATS best when it looks like this, right? They got, double digits from Cleveland cover the first game against Toronto on the road and actually won it. Then they were favorites in Brooklyn. They lost. Some of this is also the back-to-backs really kind of, has this number up in a major way. So I think that's kind of playing somewhat of a factor here as well, kind of just to where this spread all checks out. So that's the NBA, it's the NHL. We're going to follow it. Knicks Pistons just got underway. We'll get you a halftime update on Ohio State, Nebraska. But, Tom, a lot of NFL news. What I want to start with, though, actually, is the bracket being set. Because I know that you're kind of always looking. You'll jump on a number early if you like it. Is there one game that you are close to or have already made a bet in for the wild card round?
I haven't. I really wanted to get the Packers plus 1.5 last night when it opened up. It flipped to Packers minus 1.5 at this point. At this point, it's just probably just going to be Packers money line. That'll be looking. I haven't really dug into Jags Bills in terms of a team total perspective, but just seeing a 51.5 total there is super, super high. Both teams can score. The Jags look unbelievable right now. I don't know if they're going to get past Buffalo, but I know there's going to be points in that game.
Yeah, that's one of those games where, sometimes turnovers can help a total, but other times, obviously, they crush it. And I think the only way it goes under is if the turnovers are on the plus side of the field, they're not returned, it's touchbacks, it's fumbles going in. That's the only real way, because I tend to agree. I think that those teams are both set up to move the football. I find that to be, I would listen to the argument it's the most important game of the wild card weekend, where the Bills and Josh Allen, people are, they've wanted to believe in. But as we've gotten closer and played more regular season games, I do think a little bit of the shine has actually come off of them for the first time. They are not only not favorites, they have the fourth best odds right now in the AFC. That's some of the longer pricing we've seen on Buffalo. And a win for the Bills, most likely, not a guarantee, most likely would send them to Denver, which I do not think is a desirable matchup for the Broncos. I think Denver will be very, very difficult to beat off of a bye. And I'm not the biggest believer in this Buffalo group, but I would give them maybe a better chance than any team. I guess the only possible teams they could play are Buffalo, Houston, Pittsburgh, and the Chargers, so maybe this isn't even a spicy take. I think Buffalo is maybe the most dangerous of that bunch, though, Tom, to take on the Broncos in round 2.
Right, and, there's, playoff history that we saw last year that, granted, was in Buffalo. They kept Bo Nix under control, but, at a certain point, which quarterback do we trust most to just go out there and win the game by himself? It's obviously going to be Josh Allen. A lot of people are going to say that the surrounding parts for him outside of James Cook aren't amazing, which is really true. And, the same can be said about the Chargers, the Pats, whatever it is. But Josh Allen elevates those players around him, even though they may not be amazing. He elevates the tight ends. That's what we often see. So, yeah, Buffalo going into Denver would be awesome to see just from a matchup perspective and how it's broken down. I'll tell you right now, if Buffalo was getting any more than 3 points, that would be my favorite bet of the playoffs.
Yeah, I wouldn't expect it, though. I think Buffalo is kind of a team whose power rating is really going to, again, let's say they beat Jacksonville. I think it grows. I think it is on the board that Buffalo ends up a favorite in every game they play in the postseason. I think that is incredibly on the board. Because, Tom, think about it. They were booked as favorites when they went to New England. They're booked as favorites here against Jacksonville. So, really, the only team that they could be dogs against within reason would be Denver and Houston from an AFC perspective. I'm not sure they would be dogs in either one of those games. They were big favorites when they played the Texans. I know that was still Davis Mills, but point stands. And then how many NFC teams would be booked as favorites over the Bills? Probably only the Rams. I mean, honestly, is Sam Darnold going to be booked as a favorite over Buffalo?
It would be, I mean, if the game was theoretically in Seattle, they would be a 1.5 favorite just because the home field advantage there. Philly would be a 1.5. And
well, the game's
Rams,
on a neutral field. We're talking about the Super Bowl. Why would you? That doesn't matter.
I understand that, but I'm saying, but like, I would say all of those teams, because of the home fields, that's the only reason that they would be favorites, is the point that I'm making.
But that's okay. You know what? I usually wouldn't do this, but you would do it to me, so I'm going to do it to you. Why? Who cares about the world where Buffalo and Seattle play a Super Bowl in Seattle? It's the game's in San Francisco. Why are you referencing that?
That's what I'm saying.
So on a neutral, you think Buffalo is what? Pick or -1? Just say that.
Yeah.
So just say that.
Okay.
Well, why didn't you say that? Why instead of saying Buffalo would be favored over those teams, you're like, if those games were in Seattle?
A good question. I don't have an answer for you. I honestly don't know why my brain went there.
All right, you know what? Fair. You know what? Now I'll back down. Go right back into reserve mode. But that really tripped me up. All right, there we go. So Bills, if the Super Bowl gets moved, likely a dog to some of these NFC teams. Otherwise, potentially zone in as favorites. We're going to talk to Tom Vecchio, unless he leaves on me. Right here, it's Game Time Decisions. We're hanging out on.
Like Alabama, right? Is there a team that scores more than Alabama? No, right? But they're actually an under team over the last couple of years because their numbers are so high. You get these Americans in Queens College or Denver. Who the hell's betting on them, right? No, but so the lines stay low. They're just like, no one's hopping all over them. But every time you see an Alabama game, you're betting over, but you're losing money because the numbers are so big.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He's out again. Anthony Davis is injured once again and is going to miss time with the Dallas Mavericks for a minor groin strain. Likely will miss a few games. And I don't even know what a few games is to Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis seems to always be missing time.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game Time Decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I know exactly what Patriot Nation is screaming this morning. It's Drake May time. Give him the trophy. MVP. Stop it, please. Just sit down. Yes, Drake May has had a nice season. But let's be real. He has played a JV schedule of defenses. He is carving up the easiest slate of defenses in the NFL this season. Congratulations on your beatdown of the Jets.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, live on SportsGrid. We are tracking a Karl Anthony Towns bet. So far, pretty easy to track. Jalen Brunson has decided he's not passing this game. So Towns has yet to shoot the basketball. That's always fun. We love that. That's really exciting. As far as the college hoops goes, it's 38-31 Nebraska at the break right now. The Cornhuskers, great two-point shooting effort so far in this game, despite doubling the number of Ohio State turnovers defensively. Nebraska doing enough early on here. We're joined by Tom Vecchio on this Monday night, trying to set some of the numbers up here for the wild card round, but also talk about Super Bowl prices. So, Tom, I know that you with value, I know sometimes you don't want to get too locked into a number, right? But I know sometimes things can pop out. Now that the bracket is set, have you looked at, are you going to be trying to place a bet on any certain team to win the Super Bowl here?
No. I will do the thing that love to do, which are two different things, which we've talked about over the years, which would be, direct matchup, which is always interesting. Bills to play the Seahawks, as we just spoke about, because we're going to get a substantially better number. Or once the awards markets come out, that's where I'll have the most interest, because I will bet on a player to win Super Bowl MVP, and I'm effectively betting on their team to win the MVP, but you're getting a significantly longer number. And, the example I use is, a couple of years ago in 2024, when I bet on CMC to win Super Bowl MVP, they obviously lose that, but I had CMC at a MVP price at 12-1 when going into the Super Bowl. He's sitting at like plus 100. And obviously 12-1 is not where the 49ers team was. But if CMC were to win that award, that means the 49ers win. So I like to find alternate routes to bet on Super Bowls instead of just the prices that they give. So, if the Pats were to be the answer for me, I would look to a Drake May price. I would look to Pats to beat the Eagles, Pats to beat X team.
So this is a game that we can play a little bit more when some of the markets come out.
Right.
But this because CMC was obviously different that year because he was given all the credit instead of Brock Purdy. Of how many teams are you going to be like far more interested in the non-quarterback option, right? Where Seattle, like JSN is going to have a very similar price probably to Darnold, or that would be a mistake. For the Rams, like that Puka price would be interesting.
Right,
I would think so.
My mind immediately goes to like, if I wanted to back the Broncos theoretically, like Nick Benino, would I go to him for that?
Yeah, I always think defense is tough.
Yeah, it's very tough.
You get huge numbers, but it can be anyone.
To have a sack. It needs to, exactly, but it needs to be like sack, strip sack, fumble recovery, like a true game-changing moment. Because just having one sack or two sacks, if a quarterback goes out there and throws for 250 yards and 2 touchdowns, like they're just going to win because that's just how things happen, right? That's just the way these markets move. So, and again, for a wide receiver to win it, they need to have 10 catches, 9 catches, 150 yards, 2 touchdowns. Like if the guy just has 80 yards and a touchdown, they're just probably still going to give it to the quarterback when it's all said and done. But again, I don't want to bet into a number, that's plus 390 for Seattle. Like that's a terrible price. I would never bet that at this point. I would find a different way.
Like I think you could argue, just to put this into perspective. So Nick Benito against the Chargers yesterday had 1.5 sacks, and I believe one was a strip sack fumble. But Jaquan McMillan had a pick 6.
Yeah.
I think it is incredible. If you just live in this hypothetical world where yesterday's Broncos-Chargers game was the Super Bowl, it comes down to either Nick Benito or Jaquan McMillan. Mm-hmm. And this is not, and Tom knows this, this isn't some like, well, Nick Benito's more famous or he's more well-known, so he's going to get it over McMillan. Like, that's not how this works. Like, the McMillan interception, and who's going to have a ticket on Jaquan McMillan?
It's a 200-1, 500-1, whatever it is. But that's my point. It's like it's a true game-changing moment. So, I don't think there's a player on Denver I would bet on. So, like, if I were, like, there's no offensive player that I would trust. So, if I were to be JSN, Puka, Saquon, Drake May, Nico Collins, James Cook, like, I would have to.
But you know what's interesting, Tom, as you run through that list, how many teams do you look at it and say, so with Mahomes, you're like, I'm not touching it. Doesn't matter. It's going to be Pat, right?
Right.
How many teams, we'll just leave this question to the people, and maybe Tom and I will circle back on this idea later in the week. How many teams are you unwilling to bet against the quarterback of? Just a question when it comes to Super Bowl MVP. We'll be right back. More Game Time Decisions on SportsGrid.
Like Alabama, right? Is there a team that scores more than Alabama? No, right? But they're actually an under team over the last couple of years because their numbers are so high. You get these Americans in Queens College or Denver. Who the hell's betting on them, right? Nobody. So the lines stay low. They're just like, no one's hopping all over them. But every time you see an Alabama game, you're betting over, but you're losing money because the numbers are so big.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He's out again. Anthony Davis is injured once again and is going to miss time with the Dallas Mavericks for a minor groin strain. Likely will miss a few games. And I don't even know what a few games is to Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis seems to always be missing time.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I know exactly what Patriot Nation is screaming this morning. It's Drake May time. Give him the trophy. MVP. Stop it, please. Just sit down. Yes, Drake May has had a nice season. But let's be real. He has played a JV schedule of defenses. He is carving up the easiest slate of defenses in the NFL this season. Congratulations on your beatdown of the Jets.
The early line, only on SportsGrid.
Live right here on SportsGrid Game Time Decisions. Let's get a quick glance at the live board, see if there's anything that stands out with this Nebraska-Ohio State game. So it's 38-31. What was your – we have it on the board. What was the pregame total of Ohio State-Nebraska? Can you guys in the back? 157. So we're at 149.5. Ohio State live team total 73 and a hook. You need 43 to get there. Nebraska 76.5, minus 128, way too expensive, but you would need 39 to get there. So a sub 40 number for Nebraska, though, potentially available. Or you could just get them to get to 40. They right now are 5 of 15 from 3. They're up in the basketball game. That's interesting to me. Sanford's only 1 of 5 from 3. So, he makes 2 in the second half. That turns that around a little bit. They only have 5 free throw attempts. There could be a lot more free throws in the second half. I've always believed in college basketball, you get an uptick in free throws if the first half is a little light on free throws. I think that starts to balance out. Let's shop a little bit here and see. We have a 77.5, minus 105 on DK. I'm interested. I know in the back there's some need for Ohio State. I know some people elsewhere who need Ohio State. I wouldn't bet Nebraska live. I know you might say if I'm betting their team total, I'm rooting them in. I'm rooting them to score. I'm not, but I'm not rooting not Ohio State to score. 77.5, 105. Looking around at a couple different shops here. I always like the opportunity for a game like this to kind of see if we have something worth it. I know we tried to do it for a couple playoff baseball games. I think this is interesting. I don't know if anybody out there, you can feel free at the Kevin Walsh at SportsGrid. Let us know if there's anything you're going to jump in on for this game. But I think this is the best we're going to get. Be a little 77.5, minus 105. I think that's interesting. And I think we're going to try and see if we can place that wager. First quarter is 30-25 right now. Detroit. Cat has 1 point he was able to get from a defensive 3 seconds technical free throw. So shout out Jalen Brunson. All him all the time. Cat will have a big second quarter, though. When he finishes a quarter without a shot, they're going to make sure that they get Karl Anthony Towns some work. So I feel actually fine because for a player of Towns' level, he could score 10 in the second quarter, and then we're on pace. So I'm all good with that. From a live perspective, that's just where we are. Now, there's a couple of different things that we can get into here. I think we'll talk just market movement, Super Bowl odds in our next segment. So let's take a look at the odds for some of these teams and their next head coach and what the predictive markets are expecting, okay? We'll start with the Las Vegas Raiders, who fire Pete Carroll and finish out as the worst team in football. They have the number 1 overall pick, and there is some Brian Flores buzz in the market. I know Pete Schrager of ESPN had mentioned Flores being a connection, and he is certainly now trading in that direction. Better than 35%. Nobody else is above 10. Cliff Kingsbury, Clint Kubiak, Jesse Minter, and Robert Saleh are the only other guys who appear to be trading above a 5% market share. I feel as if Brian Flores going to Vegas is a fit that makes sense because of how bad the defensive room appears to be. And Flores feels like a culture guy that can really fit in Las Vegas. So I think that works. What's very interesting, though, is Flores did not have a good relationship with Tua Tagovailoa. So I think it's going to be very important for Brian Flores to have a good relationship with whomever the next quarterback is. Will Brian Flores hit it off with Fernando Mendoza or Dante Moore? And if he doesn't, will he be able to stop this organization from drafting quarterback? Is there a world Brian Flores falls in love with a Ruben Bain and Arvell Reese? I think that is interesting. Flores, though, right now, the lead man, and I think this team hiring a defensive-minded head coach, unsurprising. As Tom Brady played for one, of course, the large majority of his NFL career in Bill Belichick. Let's take a look at the odds for another opening that we have out there right now and kind of how the predictive markets are expecting things to go. We have tracked the Cleveland Browns a little bit. You have really here's the interesting thing with this one. You actually have, and I should say all of them, is Clint Kubiak and Chris Shula seem to be kind of heavily discussed. Cliff Kingsbury's name is up there with both of these guys. Mike McDaniel, Brian Flores, Jesse Minter, Robert Saleh. Here's the interesting one you'll see at 9%, Deion Sanders. Is there any world in which Deion Sanders becomes the head coach of the Cleveland Browns? I believe no. I do not think that the Browns are looking to hand the keys of this organization over to the Sanders family. I think allowing Shedeur to start makes sense. I do not believe it is necessary to have Deion be the head coach. When I look at Kubiak, Shula, Kingsbury, McDaniel, right? You see you see offensive names a little bit more near the top here for Cleveland. I think what's very interesting in talking to Matt Fontana a little bit earlier on our show, he mentioned Jim Schwartz. I wonder if the Browns are hoping to and are going to try to pitch whomever they hire in retaining Jim Schwartz as the defensive coordinator. If yes, Chris Shula, Brian Flores, Jesse Minter, and Robert Saleh don't make sense. Defensive guys. No way you're hiring a defensive guy and telling them who their defensive coordinator is. More offensive focused. Kubiak, Kingsbury, McDaniel. Okay? Something to keep your mind on there as it pertains to the Cleveland Browns. Now, over on Kalshi, they have odds for the Falcons job. Kubiak's the favorite there as well, which pins Clint Kubiak as the favorite for a number of these jobs. Matt Nagy's the favorite for the Titans job. I'm surprised it's actually not a little bit stronger. 39% right now on Matt Nagy to get the Titans job. That's the only connection we see. Now, that is flatly a horrific fire that should allow Eric Bieniemy to file a class action lawsuit against the NFL, but it doesn't mean it's not going to happen. Matt Nagy right now gaining steam there. Kevin Stefanski, the favorite for the Giants job, something our NFL insider Adam Kaplan has mentioned a little bit. And then you do have the Arizona Cardinals job where once again, Clint Kubiak is the favorite. I think one thing you can take away from the predictive markets, or one of the things I should say, is without a shadow of a doubt, you are going to see Clint Kubiak hired this offseason out of Seattle, which adds even more. Though, if the Seahawks going to run, sometimes the patience isn't preached. Certainly interesting. Market movements, Super Bowl odds, where they started, where they are now, next.
Alabama, right? Is there a team that scores more than Alabama? No, right? But they're actually an under team over the last couple of years because their numbers are so high. You get these Americans in Queens College or Denver. Who the hell's betting on them, right? Nobody. So the lines stay low. They're just like, no one's hopping all over them. But every time you see an Alabama game, you're betting over, but you're losing money because the numbers are so big.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He's out again. Anthony Davis is injured once again and is going to miss time with the Dallas Mavericks for a minor groin strain. Likely will miss a few games. And I don't even know what a few games is to Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis seems to always be missing time.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I know exactly what Patriot Nation is screaming this morning. It's Drake May time. Give him the trophy. MVP. Stop it, please. Just sit down. Yes, Drake May has had a nice season. But let's be real. He has played a JV schedule of defenses. He is carving up the easiest slate of defenses in the NFL this season. Congratulations on your beatdown of the Jets.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
Game time decisions here on a Monday night. Market Movement Monday. Odds to win the Super Bowl. Week 1 to now. And it is very interesting as I look through some of these numbers here because I am 98% sure I'm going to be making a not just Super Bowl pick, but future. Potentially within the next 24 hours. It's on the board. We release that tomorrow here on the show. We also might do New Year's resolutions tomorrow on the show. We'll see. Of course, tomorrow's Kevin 7. Should be a fun Tuesday. What I'm laughing at, though, is how how much of a buy low, bounce back merchant I am. And just some of the teams that I'm thinking about and just kind of prices now versus then type of situation. Let's begin at the top. One of the tickets I am sure, if you have, you are over the moon about. The Seattle Seahawks started at 65-1. They are now the Super Bowl favorites at plus 420. If you have that number on Seattle, you feel remarkable. If you are so inclined, you could very likely hedge each round of the postseason with them clinching the 1 seed and still make profit. I think it is more likely that folks who bet the Seahawks will be letting that ride in the divisional round. They'll probably see what the conference championship game looks like. And then at that point, if you're in the Super Bowl, you make your move, right? But at 65-1, you're going to have some options. At 20-1 on the Rams, you're going to have some options if they're able to get there. Now, I think only if they're able to get there. The Rams are the biggest favorites of Wild Card Weekend. I said that would happen for the Rams, and that was why their numbers were staying short. And that was kind of if you were looking to bet on Los Angeles, the downside, let's just say you believe in the Rams regardless, them playing the Panthers hurt you in getting a great number because they're the biggest round one favorites. The books feel as good about the Rams being in their next round nearly as much as Seattle and Denver, who already have their bye weeks. And I think that's why if you have a Rams position, right, you're not hedging against Carolina, and then you're set up for short numbers in the next 2 weeks. I think where they could be slight dogs, you probably wait for a Super Bowl run out on the Rams. But again, I think anybody who's bet the Rams probably likes them so much, they won't be looking to kind of hedge anything. Denver's 25-1, now plus 650. I did not expect the Broncos to get to the level that they were able to in season. I am impressed by them. I think Sean Payton's ability to win off a bye has been proven, and it makes them very likely to be hosting the AFC Championship game. But at number, Denver's just not a team for me. Again, if you're holding 25-1, you're pumped. The Eagles at 7-1 have made the playoffs and are now plus 850, despite being the 3 seed and the defending champs in an open league. I think if you're someone who's looking to bet the Eagles, as somebody who had them as a part of the list of teams, right? There were 7 teams I was considering, and that, of course, I famously didn't pick any of those 7 teams to actually win the Super Bowl. Knowing how hard it is to repeat was something that I worried about for Philadelphia. But you're now getting a better number having let the regular season play out. I think that becomes very interesting as it pertains to the Eagles. Patriots 80-1 down to 10-1. I think for New England, and this is why people get so angry when you talk about the soft schedule. The Patriots win total was light relative to the schedule. But where this team gets credit is they are not only here because of the schedule. They are not a team who it's just all, they haven't played anybody. We have been impressed by them throughout this season. The Patriots are a team that, you can see going on that run. I'll say this, and Patriots fans probably won't like this. I've been surprised at how short the number is against the Chargers. And I can't tell if I'm too in on New England, too low on LA. But I thought the Patriots could be 5-6 point favorites in that football game with what we've seen from them and from the Chargers. Sitting at 10-1, New England's interesting. How about Buffalo? Everybody's darling. In the postseason, I don't think the books love the Jacksonville matchup for them. It's a 1.5 point line. Still favoring Buffalo. But you're getting think about it like this just quickly to put the Bills and the Eagles together. You're going to make the Super Bowl as 2 of the shortest teams, and the teams around you, Kansas City, right, and Baltimore, won't make it. And you have longer odds now than you did. This right here, you could use as enough justification for a Bills-Eagles exacta. A.K.A. the Kevin and Yarnell are on bad terms for a month bowl. That would get ugly. Just saying. Texans, gosh, we thought about that team a lot. We thought about them a lot. I'll say this. It stopped us from having to wonder if they were going to lose to Rodgers. They were in the Green Goblin mask tier a while back. You got some great numbers on them, not just preseason, but in season as well. Similar for Jacksonville. Similar for Jacksonville. The Green Bay numbers, I'm thinking about it. I didn't want to say that. But most unbiased man in the history of sports media is also incredibly honest. I'm thinking about it. There's some Packer stuff there. Bears aren't that good. I think everybody knows it. 35-1 down to 19-1. I can't imagine who's holding Bears tickets. At that number, relative to the field, I don't see it. Niners, I had the preseason NFC tickets. They're there. They blew their opportunity on Saturday. Offense had nothing going, and they're drawing dead on likely both sides of the football here relative to the conference. Chargers are unappealing to me at 30-1. Pittsburgh being the same number is the second funniest thing on this graphic to the Carolina Panthers. To make the to make the playoffs as a preseason 125-1 team and have longer odds is remarkable. It is only the NFC South could provide us this. Oh, like the Tampa Bay Bucks would be what? Half this? Would they be shorter than Pittsburgh? Did the NFC South put their worst team in the playoffs? It's on the board. We'll get best bets on the way out.
Like Alabama, right? Is there a team that scores more than Alabama? No, right? But they're actually an under team over the last couple of years because their numbers are so high. You get these Americans in Queens College or Denver. Who the hell's betting on them, right? Nobody. So the lines stay low. They're just like, no one's hopping all over them. But every time you see an Alabama game, you're betting over, but you're losing money because the numbers are so big.
In-game live, only on SportsGrid.
He's out again. Anthony Davis is injured once again and is going to miss time with the Dallas Mavericks for a minor groin strain. Likely will miss a few games. And I don't even know what a few games is to Anthony Davis because Anthony Davis seems to always be missing time.
Pro basketball today, only on SportsGrid.
I mean, they couldn't get the Arizona State coach to come out. They couldn't get the BYU coach to leave their job. I mean, it's just very odd, I feel, when we watch this whole thing play out and try and really understand what happened here with Michigan not being able to make some of the splashier hires that they thought they were going to be able to make.
Game time decisions, only on SportsGrid.
I know exactly what Patriot Nation is screaming this morning. It's Drake May time. Give him the trophy. MVP. Stop it, please. Just sit down. Yes, Drake May has had a nice season. But let's be real. He has played a JV schedule of defenses. He is carving up the easiest slate of defenses in the NFL this season. Congratulations on your beatdown of the Jets.
The Early Line, only on SportsGrid.
All right, guys, let's make it happen here on a Monday night. What do we have for the people? We've got Charleston and William and Mary, 46-32 at the break. Slightly off pace, but not violently off pace. So we'll be rooting in that over. Montana State just opened the scoring up in the FCS championship game. That's a now 7-0 Bobcats lead with a 3-yard touchdown run for their quarterback, Justin Lamson, who's had himself a great season for Montana State. We like the Bobcats to get the job done there. We do. Yeah, it is what it is. Nebraska 47-43. Scoring slowed down considerably in this game. Let's get it to overtime. Let's get it to overtime. You don't like rooting overtime this early, but you have to. It's the only option here, people. Shout out Karl Anthony Towns for being able to take one shot in the minutes he played without Brunson, who checked back in and within the next 40 seconds matched Karl Anthony Towns' workload for the quarter. So shout out the oppressor for not letting Cat cook as we're seeing it here. Big lead right now for the Celts, up 9 on the Bulls. Matas Buzelis with 7. Heat check. Deuce McBride, he's got 5. Heat check. Quickly. He's got 8. Whoa, no dimes, though. Whoa. Raptors up 18-6, blowout watch. Who are the Raptors playing tonight? Trae Young, soon to be former team, the Atlanta Hawks. Trae Young and his representation are working on a deal to trade Trae Young out of Atlanta. And this has been coming for a little while. Trae Young and his relationship with the Hawks has been on some probably off footing for a little bit now. But this year, with Jalen Johnson really, really breaking out and this team playing their worst basketball when Trae is on the floor, and Trae having, when he's been available, the worst season of his pro career, it's not that surprising. I think it leads to a lot of questions, though, about how this all plays out. And I think we'll talk more about this tomorrow with Coach James Young. However, to get into a little bit of it now, Mark Stein, longtime NBA reporter, has suggested the Washington Wizards will be in the mix for Trae Young. Trae Young has a deal this year and then a player option. Trae Young may be forced to opt into that deal, potentially. I think if you're Trae Young going to Washington, though, while I am sure that would be a sick frustrating because you want to, hope to win at a high level, I think long-term could be a great move. The Wizards could really use someone like Trae Young. I think it would help you get a lot out of Alex Sarr, the continued development of younger guys, Keyshawn George, Trey Johnson, Bub Carrington. And I think it's very unlikely that Trae Young playing for the Wizards would stop this team from being one of the worst in basketball. They right now have 9 victories. Only the Pelicans, Kings, and Pacers have fewer. And Trae Young right now is a bit injured. So the second anything were to get scary, they could just shut him down. I just wonder if Trae's market, I wonder if Washington, being the team to trade for Trae Young, is a sign on what the market for Trae is. And then, therefore, does that mean that none of the top teams want him? None of the top teams can afford him due to the nature of the apron? Is Atlanta attaching picks? Is Atlanta receiving picks? And Atlanta had been one of the teams heavily linked to Anthony Davis. Does this stop them from doing that? Make it more likely they do that? Do the Warriors become heavy favorites now to trade for Anthony Davis? I think this is a very big domino that is about to fall. And that will then start and start transitioning us this next month here of NBA trade craziness fallout. One final item. 3 best bets are live. Let's hope to get one in the door. The plus 275 parlay is right now our best shot, which says something. But USC Michigan State over for AJ as we try and lift the spirits of the whole team. So root it in. In-game live is next. We'll see you tomorrow.